Tacitus today. Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to combine a few things, I guess, but one of the main topic of this essay is how the leftists, the globalist leftists, how they seem to particularly focus on competence, professionalism, competence. Now, if you look at the 1619 project and the various other educational projects that the globalists are supporting and funding through the schools and the universities, it's primarily the hatred of white people that they're pushing, but they're singling out various white behaviours. And this white behaviour is one of them is competence, professionalism, punctuality, working hard, and trying to do your best, and these sorts of things. They're particularly singling those out to say, well, those behaviours by white people separate white people as a group. I mean, they don't seem to mention Asians as widely in this group, but separate white people as a group, which mean that brown and black people, the people that the globalists want to bring into the West, brown and black people are disadvantaged because they can't, or very few of them can actually emulate those behaviours. Now, I remember at school and college that not every white person could behave that way. There were plenty of white people that couldn't make it to class on time, that sort of thing, or lectures and so on. So the idea that all white people behave this way is nonsense. But there are certain, there are far more white people behave that way than other races. Certainly by my experience, and I've done business all over the world. So anyway, let's have a look at this idea that competence, to be professional, to be good at your job, to be capable, is some sort of expression of white supremacy and thus evil. So if you start to pass, as in PARSE, you start to pass all these things that the activists are doing, including white activists, but the white activists primarily, female and gay, lesbian, and then you've got the black activists and the brown activists, a lot of Indians that jump onto this bandwagon and so on. It goes like this: that if you're competent, then competence is an expression of confidence, and confidence is thus an expression of power, which means you have power and others do not. And they even go further in these radical sort of writings where if you have power, you've effectively stolen it from someone else, in the same manner as if you've got a nice house and a nice car, you've stolen that from someone. Because in a world of exact equity and equity outcomes, everybody will be just as confident as everyone else, just as competent, just as capable, just as gifted in any area. Now, people that may be morally gifted, people are allowed to have moral purity that's greater than the next person. That's fine, that's acceptable. But white people can't have that. They're just unable to. So moral purity is only possible from victims, the lived experience victim type thing, which is again this fantasy that the globalist funded left have embraced. So if you're a black lesbian, then you are purer than any straight white male could ever be. No matter how insane or vindictive or cruel or unpleasant you might be, you are still morally purer than the straight white male, particularly the competent one. So this comes back to employment practices and so on that go on, not only in the public service but in the private sector now as well. The people that are filling up the diversity departments and the human resources departments and the recruitment managers and diversity directors, all these sorts of things, these are mostly radicalized young women or young gay lesbian people, or even people into the middle age. They don't all have to be young. And their training, their ideological brainwashing has created this association competence means confidence, and then once you've reached that point, you're dealing with a fucking Nazi. That's it. Straight, or if the person's white as well, or male, or straight, then that's it. You're dealing with a fucking Nazi. Could even be Hitler. Could even be Hitler. Simply because they're competent. Now, that's of course insane. Insane. Any business, any economy, any human enterprise of any description needs competent people. And at the moment in the West, they're hell bent on getting rid of every competent person and trying to replace them with someone who's got victim identity and victim oppression points. And this particularly targets men, particularly straight white males, whose whole career and employment and everything relies on, primarily at least, on being competent. Sure, there's the well-connected, socialite freeloaders. They'll always be around, but for everyone else in the world, the West, the way to a future and a career and a bright future, providing well for the family, your family, all that sort of thing, it was through competence. That was really the only path. Competence starting in school and doing well, and college, and then in the workplace. And for competent people, there were careers and opportunities and even fortunes to be made. So competence is how white people, straight white males, have been trained, or hitherto at least. I mean, the young men coming through now seem to lack all the signs of ambition that I had at their age, and the people around me did. They seem to be, too terrified they might upset the black lesbian careers counsellor at the school, or something. They're told from day one that you're misogynist, Nazi, rapist, oppressors. You're all fucking Hitler, and you've all destroyed the planet with climate. It's your fault. You did it, and so you better make way for the morally pure people, because they're going to come along and fix it. You damn fascist Nazis. So that's so young men have got very little sense of enterprise, and why should they work hard? Why should they, accept any risk? Engage in the entrepreneurial activity, things like that. So, not that they aren't out there, but there was a lot around when I was a kid. Now I hardly see any. I mean, just the neighbours and the friends that we have. Their children who are in say final year high school, or they've finished university, they're out in the workforce. I mean, they have like zero motivation, zero get up and go, and that's because they've been affected by all this insanity of competence and capability equals fascism and Nazism. So, which equals white supremacy, it equals misogyny and all that sort of thing. So they said, well, why should I do anything if I'm going to be accused of being Hitler if I even try and pass my mathematics test? And it's got that bad, I think. So now, just sort of in line with that. In fact, Jordan Peterson has made some mention of this as well, not in the same context necessarily, but I think he's mentioned it. Now, something that just goes in with this in employment. You've got all these radical activists now in the fucking HR departments and so on, and their job, as they see it, is to prevent, stop competent straight white males from getting employed. The IQ 80, achieved nothing, created nothing, black lesbian is a far more, from a moral purity perspective, as they see it, is far more preferable as an employee than the damn straight white male. And on top of that, the straight white male is competent. He's going to make the other people feel bad about themselves. It's the equivalent of misgendering somebody, or not recognizing, not fully embracing the new trans identity of so and so. And being competent and doing good work, good quality work, that's the same as something terrible. So it's a moral, it's a form of moral competence is a form of moral wickedness that's almost unspeakable in the degree of evil that it brings on trans communities and gay lesbian communities and women and minorities and so on. So their job in this in this thing is to is to stop straight white males from getting a job, stop them from getting promoted, stop them from getting pay rises, prevent businesses owned by straight white males from getting the contract. It's all that sort of stuff, and they're really going at it quite hard. As they see it, they're socially re-engineering the world into one of great moral purity. A bit like Pol Pot. Now, if you've got Stalin or Mao, if you've got to kill a few million people, then hey, you break a couple of eggs when you're creating moral purity, and a few million deaths. Hey, small price to pay, because we're creating paradise on earth, and we're allowed to kill as many people we want to create this paradise, whether it's to ruin them financially or take them out back and shoot them. We're on a quest to create moral purity. If you've got a problem with that, you damn fucking fascist Nazi Hitler motherfucker. Now, there's something else I just wanted to mention, because it sort of dovetails into this. We got this is in a capacity for doing some work for a multinational company through we're subbing to another contractor, but now we bring a lot of expertise to the table in this particular area, and we'd be one of the heavier weight players around town, again in this specific area. But we got two questionnaires. Well, one was a questionnaire for us. Can you prove you're not a Nazi, which I mentioned in another video, which was a fucking outrage in my view. Thought up and dreamed up by some snot-nosed little shithead leftist, lesbian, angry lesbian, who's got a permanent scowl on their face. But there was another thing. We were supposed to be working on some of the legalities of human resource policy, and in like, I suppose you call it the annual pay review or annual performance evaluation, which once used to actually be about performance. Not that being on a good terms with your boss didn't hurt the evaluation, but it used to be about performance, and you could argue with it. So if your boss said, well, your performance is lousy when you did such and such or so and so, you could argue the toss. Say, well, no, that's not right. The reason I didn't do any good at that is because of these things, or I don't agree. I think I did do a good job, or you could argue that. So performance evaluation or performance review, as they'd call it. Now, we were meant to be working on some of the legalities of performance review for, say, junior vice presidents or senior general managers type level. So you've got the CEO, the EVP, executive vice president. Sometimes they have senior vice presidents and junior vice presidents, but typically you're dealing with someone that could be second in line for the CEO's job. So this is this is a big company. When I say big, 10,000 employees or something. So this is a fairly important aspect of performance review, and these are senior people. These are people that theoretically, at least, have worked their way up. They've had to perform. They've had to produce results. They've had to build things, create things, and achieve things. So typically you think that. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, hey, a lot of the people in there are just affirmative action hires these days, and that's true. Nonetheless, we got this thing, and it was incredibly childlike. It was as if somebody was talking to a 10-year-old child. It assumed a degree of infantilization that the person was still at school, or maybe had just left school. At the oldest, at the most mature, they just left school. So they'd be 19, 20 years old, certainly 21 years old or under, and somebody with no work experience, no achievements, and a very naive, childlike view of the world, and it's working. So that was so we got that, and someone came to me with it, and I said, oh no, they must have made a mistake. This is for a new employee, or this is for a new trainee or someone who's just starting with their company. They've just sent the wrong one. No big deal. Go, let's check with them and we'll get the proper one for vice president level executives. So we did that, and they said, no, that is the right one. And we queried it. Well, look, this is the language, the way it's phrased, the assumptions it makes. It's talking to a child. Oh, well, we don't think so. We think that's pretty much spot on to the level of people that are in that role. And then you realise that actually not only are these affirmative action hires and quotas and race gender quotas, not only are they reducing the competence level, but they're creating a level of infantilization. Everyone's a child playing house in the play nursery, and that's the world as they perceive it. And it was like that when they were 10 years old. It's still like that today. They're getting paid for it now, but so when we talk about reduction in quality of work and professionalism, reduction in education, and the reduction in standards in so many areas in the West today, then we're also looking at a reduction in a sense of people's age and the maturity and the responsibility acceptance, because they don't have to accept responsibility for anything if they're not doing any good at school. It's because of white supremacy. If they're not passing the exams, it's because of racism. And if they're not doing such, it's because of misogyny. If they're not doing that, it's because of Nazis. If they're not if they haven't got good relationships, it's because of the fascists and so on. So there's an excuse and someone to blame, straight white male, someone to blame for everything. And these people don't need to accept responsibility for anything. And that's the quality of the the discourse of the internal communications, if you will. So a vice president. Now some of these guys are going $500,000 a year. Okay, the vice president is going to be spoken to and related to as if he was a 10-year-old child, she was a 10-year-old child. Now, given the amount of affirmative action hires that this company's getting into, and certainly the people I've met there, for example, the vice president of operations, a woman, she's affirmative action hire, and she's never had a real job ever. She's just been a hack, and she's she talks to people as if they're all children. I mean, we've even noticed this when we go in to talk to some of the executives that we need to talk to get things done, particularly if they're in the operations, marketing, HR, the ones where women are most likely to be. And we're amazed at how they talk to us, men in their 50s and about to turn 60, and that they talk to us as if we're school children. Sometimes even the finger wagging as if we're wayward school children and naughty school children. They have to be told, you do this and you better watch out. And very strange. We sort of can't understand why they would talk to us as if we're clearly not children, and we're clearly not unprofessional. There's no reason. There's nothing. There's no cause to talk to us or anyone else for that matter that way. But that's how they perceive the world. Everyone's a child and no one has responsibility. And so everything is determined on moral purity or perceptions of it that are in themselves existing only in some sort of twisted Marxist fantasia. So moral purity becomes I'm more, I'm better than you because I have more moral purity than you. In fact, I can't do my job. I'm useless at it. I'm an affirmative action hire. I can't do crap. That's irrelevant. The fact that you can do those things, that you are competent, professional, capable, and you've achieved things, that just means that you're a Nazi, which just confirms your lack of moral purity. I, on the other hand, am morally pure, so I can tell you what to do and talk to you as if you're on my level, which is as an irresponsible childlike, shithead pun. So that's something that sort of come in that and I'd seen this before, but competence is now the new fascism in the West, and these morally pure goons are chasing that down with a vigor. And so I think the only way for white people to, particularly straight white males, is you're going to have to change gender. Identify as a black lesbian. I mean, without that form of self-abasement, it may not be possible in 10 years from now to get employment in anything other than sweeping the fucking floor. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.